There's a trend going around where you take a movie, you keep one human character and replace the rest with Muppets.
Oh, Schindler's List. Keep Liam Neeson, but everybody... No.
All right, welcome to This Week in Nerd History. This is a podcast where we take a look at all the fun, dumb, nerdy stuff from the past, present, and future. I'm Mike. Joining me, as always, are AJ and Sal. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Okay. Okay.
I should set you guys... I don't know if I should set you guys up better for this. There's always like So we got a lot of fun stuff to talk about today. We're going to talk about the new lineup, next year's lineup, 2025 for Disney Plus and Hulu. We're going to talk about Sesame Street, big 55th anniversary for Sesame Street, which is crazy. A couple other fun things to talk about. We had a lot of nice user feedback last week on last week's podcast. I was just going to run through some of the stuff that we had. So the first thing that stood out to me, which is fucking crazy, is my orange juice LSD guy was an urban myth because like people like other people had the same exact story. So I don't know if it was like it was almost like a dare thing where like the guy comes and tells you about this fake orange juice guy to like scare kids. And that's the only way I can imagine.
Or like somebody's like, this is the story that I tell kids. You could use it too. Like they all went to the same like training camp.
You might think you're orange
and they're like,
juice.
tell this story.
How the hell does that story get around? Like it's always orange juice. And it's always a guy with like tabs somewhere on his person that get wet. So like this is pre-internet. So how the hell does like a story like that?
That's the same thing with like everybody that I know knew that Marilyn Manson had his ribs removed so that he could suck his own dick. But that's just a rumor. That's not a thing that really happened, number one.
No,
and number two, how does every child across America know this rumor?
Right.
Because everybody I know,
Richard
everybody,
Gere
I'm
with
like,
the hamster
did
up
you?
his butt.
Yeah, everybody knew
definitely
it.
Happened, is real.
This
Can
was
confirm.
like word of mouth memeing. Like you had a cousin that was like across country, and when they came to visit, like the older cousins like would tell you weird shit that they heard, and it got around that way.
There was somebody had mentioned Elvira on there that they learned
Elvira.
Yeah, like not in the, like it was like in a like younger like when they were in school. A ton of stuff about getting scarred from movies, some dare stuff. So appreciate all the
Thank
feedback
you for
and
the
listening
feedback.
and stuff,
We love
guys.
it.
We read all of them. It's great. It's great to hear that other people have been traumatized by the same stuff that we have.
It really brings us together.
I want to know all the trauma stories.
So before we get to the Disney Plus Hulu stuff, Sal, I wanted to ask you a question that I learned about this morning that was very enlightening to me, or just very strange, is the story of the person who created the Wonder Woman character.
Oh, yes.
William Marston.
Moulton Marston, yes.
William
Moulton
Marston. Yes, the lead in Sonic the Hedgehog.
So that was how he ended his career. It's crazy. It's all over the place. I mean, Sal's going to tell it a billion times better than I will, but like him and his wife accidentally sort of made the correlation that like stress affected blood pressure, which led to their invention or his invention of the polygraph machine. And then they were also in a polyamorous relationship, which is sort of like thrown in at the end. And their partner, they were into bondage, and that led somehow to like the lasso of truth and him creating a Wonder Woman character. And was she based off of his wife and their partner?
I believe so, yes.
And their bondage relationship?
I was like, what a fucking roller coaster ride. I had no idea where this story was going. It was just like I was flipping through.
There's a lot of pieces put in there.
Thanks a lot to like the Stanleyification of comics. Like, you assume comics just came from one kindly old grandpa character who's like, what if a guy could stick to walls, But you go back to like the pantheon, like the original characters. I mean, like Wonder Woman was created, I think, in like 1941. So it's like William Marston was like, in a polyamorous relationship with his wife. And they were very into bondage, as I understand it, and that all kind of like incepted into the Wonder Woman character. But I want to say that they were really good at compartmentalization. Like they invented the polygraph machine. They did overlap concepts like, the idea of wrapping someone up is really a turn on for me, and also the idea of sensing when someone's lying. And what if I formed that into a character that all little girls across America could identify with and dress up as? And I mean, like, I don't know. I love it because every few years someone does a Wikipedia deep dive on this guy.
I will literally never look at Wonder Woman the same when I see a lasso of truth. I'm like, oh, I'll be like, oh, that's a bondage thing.
Oh yeah, no, and what's funny is like you'll see, especially in the early days of comics, like Wonder Woman is constantly tied up. And like that's kind of like her thing. Like not her thing is being tied up. It's breaking free of it. It's like we see it, for a minute, but then we see
she's
that
not
she
the bondee, she's the bondess. She's going to bind you.
Well, she's got the rope, so you're gonna get bound.
She's in charge. So
that explains the ball gag of honor, her less popular.
That's right.
Her
That's
less known.
And her sidekick Peggers. I'm sorry. She only existed from
He
1952.
just showed up for one episode.
And they were like, no. Like, how did they get through? He's like an imp. He's like, You need me for anything, Diana? No, not today, Peggers. Okay,
Peggers,
you just call
good.
me. Just tap the star on your tiara and I will appear.
Sorry to make you come all the way out here, Peggers, but like we don't need you today. So.
I am so glad you brought up Peggers. I was wondering about him.
Next, we got to see Peggers. Peggers is gonna have to show up on the show.
At first, I was when you said Peggers the first time, I thought because it's like the new iteration of Wonder Woman. Is she riding like a Pegasus?
The absolute Wonder Woman is riding a dead Pegasus. Yes.
Dead Pegasus. So I thought like Peggers
so skeleton Pegasus
was like a nickname for her Pegasus horse.
That's pretty good.
Has Wonder Woman had a sidekick before? Because I feel like we're breaking.
Oh man, that is such a loaded question, man.
It's really? James Marsden, isn't it? Doesn't he
James
play?
Marsden.
Oh right, okay, yeah,
yeah.
I didn't really think he. Yeah, that makes sense. Right.
Wonder Woman's sidekick has been herself in the form of Wonder Girl, aka Donna Troy, who is a character that has been both Wonder Woman's like little sister / sidekick / younger version of herself, and so she has become a real hornet's nest of a character where people go like, I don't know, and then every time they try to like make her make more sense,
what do you do when you're talking to yourself?
Well, it's like she came in from the future, but then they were like, but that's complicated. No. Let's say she's this, and it's like, but we didn't actually do a story that undid that. So she's all those things. She's Schrodinger's sidekick. And so it's a problem. But at this point, they've just kind of like resigned themselves to rarely using her in things. But they're also very vociferous Donna Troy fans who are like, justice for Donna! And I'm like, dude, then give me a good explanation for her origin that the DC universe can just deliver and just establish instead of being like, well, I mean, okay, because it's always, oh, well, give me Donna Troy's origin. Well, okay. If you have to start with well, don't bother.
Don't do it. Don't do it. We don't want it.
But yes, Wonder Woman has technically had sidekicks. I mean, but for the most part, her sidekicks are Steve Trevor, her kangaroo, and various accoutrements that she carries. But it's rare that she'll have a Robin.
All right, so this is Today in Nerd History, and a couple weeks ago, Disney Plus and Hulu, they released a trailer showcasing all the stuff that's going to be coming out in 2025. It's a bunch of new shows, and the trailer ends with saying all this and more. So just to run through some of like the top line ones, there's Andor Season 2, Ironheart, Goosebumps, The Vanishing, Alien Earth, Skeleton Crew, Daredevil Born Again, The Bear Season 4, Chad Powers, which is a whole other thing.
A whole other thing.
Yeah, so just like a backstory on that. I'm familiar with it because I'm a New York Giants football fan. And several years ago, like just as a prank, Eli Manning was a quarterback for the Giants for a long time. They put him in like prosthetic makeup and brought him out to like, I think it was like Penn State football, just like tryout camp or whatever for like walk-ons.
Just fuck with people.
Yeah, because he's an NFL pro and he's just like lighting it up and everything like that. And he's just like a goofball. Eli Manning looks like a doofus.
Yes.
Like generally, like normally.
Yeah.
And so here but he's got like a big, funny, goofy personality. So it fit really well. So his name was Chad Powers in that. And this show is just like a play off of that. I forget the main actor guy he's been in everything. He's in the
Glenn
Twisters
Powell.
movie.
I looked it up because I saw him in a rom-com that I really
liked. He's in like
liked.
a billion things at once in the past like year and a half.
Chad Powers looks really fun. Like, I don't like sports stuff, but the idea of someone putting on prosthetics to pretend they're someone else and then playing football sounds so funny to me because I just feel like you could just like it writes itself with half of it just being his prosthetics falling off. I hope they do
I know,
that.
that's the first thing you think of. I know, especially in football. That's like the hardest thing.
Yeah,
to
he just gets hit and his ears fall off, and you're like,
It's like he has
That'd
a
be
full
awesome.
like
Yeah.
mustache wig. Like what?
why is Tony Clifton playing football? Hitting all the popular
Yeah.
trends here on
Kids
This Week in
love
History.
Tony Clifton.
You left out some of my favorites though. You left out The Handmaid's Tale.
The purpose of this whole thing, the graphic here that I made, this very fancy graphic of a bunch of logos put together,
Very fancy.
is that it's great that they're putting out a bunch of shows, but there's too many things happening, and it's going to be very difficult. It's going to become like a chore to watch all this shit.
Yes.
So what I'm proposing is that we take this group here. We could throw in Handmaid's Tale too. I'll throw in the graphic afterwards. But
Okay.
let's combine all this into just one show so that it's just easier. It's a time saver.
Seeing Daredevil and the bear next to each other, I want to call it the Dare Bear. Maybe
Okay.
we just combine it into like 2 or 3
Bears?
episodes. The
I
Dare
like
Bears.
Dare Bear. I like Daredevil too.
I know Daredevil also works.
Bear
Yeah,
Devil.
holy shit.
Bear Devil crew.
Yeah, the Daredevil crew. So they're blind. They make food, but they've been strong-armed into pulling off a heist in space.
In space, and in order to pull it off, they have to wear prosthetics
Yes.
to go undercover as what was it? They're like outer space chefs. What was it?
Yeah,
I
outer,
mean, like-
outer
They're
space
they're
chefs.
outer space.
Okay.
They're blind chefs. Blind
Okay.
chefs.
This is a fantastic show already. I want to watch every
Yep.
episode.
Boom.
Of this show.
We've won every
I'm
single,
in.
single. We've won the Humanitas as well.
Blind chefs, all with prosthetics on,
Yeah.
as a ragtag team on a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens are attacking them.
Yep. They encounter aliens.
Yeah.
What does Ironheart do?
Here's what we can do here. Let's
Okay.
swap Ironheart for Handmaid's
Yes.
Tale. Okay.
Yeah. Like
I
most
mean,
people will.
Ironheart does look fun, as
It
most
does. It
people
looks
will.
cute.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So let's recap real quick because we have a hit on our hands. So
Yes.
this is a group of blind chefs, right? So we can cross off Daredevil and the Bear, who have to wear prosthetics, so we can
Yep.
cross off Chad Powers, and they have to go into space for
A heist.
a heist.
They're
Okay, great.
heisting in space, and they're attacked by aliens.
They're
Obviously,
attacked by aliens.
which can be Alien, Earth, and Goosebumps put together because there's I think there's an alien kind of aspect to that one.
They can be scary aliens. That was
Scary
There you go.
aliens.
Sure. There you go.
Yeah,
I mean, aliens are scary, but still.
And then there is
and people
so
disappear.
it's going to get tough
It's
for
called
the
The
last two
Vanishing.
because we have to mix in Andor and the Handmaid's Tale. into
Andor
this,
is like a weird, like deeply serious political like thriller. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
just make it like the politics that are overarching the
Okay.
entire story
So-
are like causing.
There'll be a side story that ties that in, maybe
Okay.
a side arc.
So there's
on it.
there's deep politics in like the blind chef world,
Yeah.
right? To like make it as a blind chef, there's a lot of politics, a lot of like negotiating and like backdoor deals and all that kind of stuff that you have to.
Totally.
And they're trying to overthrow the government, and then
Right,
that's
so
Handmaid's Tale. Boom, we
There you
did
go.
it. We're
Okay.
brilliant again.
Are the chefs kids to fit in skeleton?
Yes.
Why not?
Yes. They're
That
all
also helps
blind.
with Goosebumps
They're
as
all
well.
blind
Oh,
chefs
that's
with
perfect.
prosthetics on.
We did it.
Yeah.
We did it, guys. Blind chefs with prosthetics go into space. They get attacked by aliens. They go into space for a heist.
Mm-hmm.
They get attacked by scary aliens.
Scary aliens. Very
And then-
scary. Scary aliens that like mutate and morph, because that's what I watched the trailer for Goosebumps: The Vanishing.
Yeah.
There's this weird substance that like goes into his skin and then
Yeah,
takes,
I
comes
didn't
out
watch
of
the
his
first
arm
season
and
of
stuff.
Goosebumps, but I'm familiar enough with it, like because they're like that tagline, like "Don't go into the basement." They kind of pull in things from separate or a few different Goosebumps episodes.
What I want to know, and I made a note of this because the first season I think was called something else. I don't know what it was, but it's done, and the second season is called The Vanishing. I believe it's separate, and David Schwimmer is like the adult in the second season, and then the rest are kids. And in the first season, Justin Long was like one of the sort of kids. How are they going to have Justin Long and David Schwimmer in like a Goosebumps series together and not be like they're cousins or related. I mean, I
Right,
hope
they're
they
related
do.
in some
If
way,
they
right?
don't,
Yeah.
they're like, they are missing a huge, like, at first I like watched 2 trailers back to back and I was like, wait, did they just put a bunch of prosthetics on it? And I was like, no, that's Justin Long and that's David Schwimmer, and they just look like they're family members. So if they didn't write that in, I'm going to be, not that I'm going to check, because I'm probably not going to watch that one. That's of these,
Right.
that's probably the one that I'm not going to watch.
Yeah,
But
fair.
I'm going to be
Definitely.
really mad if they don't do that. So somebody
just
who's
mad.
watched it, let me know.
Yeah, I'm
Let
just
me
mad they
know
never
after
put the
the fact.
Gersperms girl into the Needles Project.
Gersperms,
Oh,
my
I
favorite.
know.
Oh, I should have been
Germ.
I have a Gersperms.
You should have been
book.
Gersperms.
Burke. I have a Gersperms. I can't
I have a
even
burp.
talk. I have a Gersperms. Gersperms. I have a Gersperms shirt that my husband
Nice.
got me for Christmas one year. I should have worn it today. I
Yeah.
actually found it like 2 days ago. I was like, oh, I haven't worn this in forever.
Is this
I'll wear it
the
next time I
format?
remember.
Is this the platform for me to air my problem with Goosebumps? Because I have
Yes.
like a deep
Yes, it
problem
is.
with Goosebumps.
Yes, please. Do it now.
My childhood best friend growing up's father painted all the Fear Street covers. Like he was
Wait,
the Fear
what?
Street artist.
Wait,
yeah.
wait, say this again. I need
My
to put
best
this in my
friend
brain.
from childhood. His father.
Your best friend from childhood. His
Yeah.
father painted all of the Fear Street covers.
novel covers. Yeah.
I read
like-
those things like religiously.
Yeah, me too.
In middle
I mean,
school.
so many of us did. I donated my entire collection to our middle school library because I was like, I had like 30 of them. Like, here you go. But yeah, he used to do those, and they were great. And everyone in my like graduating class was a kid on those covers at some point or another. And I'm theoretically
That
on
is
one of
so
them. I don't
fucking
know.
cool.
Yeah, but I don't know which one I'm on, and I've
What?
tried to find it, but I can't.
You've just
I don't know. which one.
exploded my brain.
I know.
I now need
But,
to
like,
go look at all of them.
But then R.L. Stein shifted gears from Fear Street to Goosebumps, but didn't bring Bill Schmidt along. And so when they got the new cover artist for Goosebumps, you know, Fear Street kind of got left in the dust. So I was always like really resentful of Goosebumps for having like not only abandoned the look that like kind of I knew R.L. Stein for, but also for kind of like dumbing down their material for like a younger audience. By the way, don't ever like use me in Vegas or like to make any kind of like sure bet, because for me I'm like, oh, Goosebumps, no, Fear Street's where it's at. Oh, Goosebumps is literally still being adapted today in 2025.
Yeah, but
Oops. Meanwhile, Fear Street
realistically-
they made one crappy movie like 2 years ago that no one saw, and I didn't either.
But I would say, Sal, I'm on your side with saying Fear Street is better. In terms of
I like
book
Fear Street
series,
more. Yeah.
Fear Street was better because Goosebumps was written for younger children. Goosebumps, their recommended age level, the actual grade level for reading on Goosebumps books is 4th and 5th grade. So
Right.
I started reading those, I think when I don't remember how old I was when I started reading them, but I started reading them when the first one came out because I
Yeah.
bought it, and because the names of the characters I remember are Amanda and Josh, because my name is Amanda, and at the time I had a crush on a kid named Josh. But I bought them and I kept buying them, and then I realized I'm going to keep buying these books and they're not going to get better.
Yes,
Like-
they're not going to grow with you like a Harry Potter book.
Yeah, they're not going to. So, like, the books kept being, like, at this level of reading, and I was like, I need something better. And I moved up to Fear Street, and Fear Street was so much better because it was grittier, it was darker. There were things where, like, there were actual, like, adult themes of, like, sexuality and stuff in
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of them. There was drugs in a bunch of them. Like, it was... I didn't know any, like, I saw none of this stuff in the media that I was seeing. Like,
That's true.
my first look into any world of sex, drugs, or I would say rock and roll, except you can't really do that in a book as much. But, like, my first look into sex and drugs was from Fear Street. And it felt safe to be able to read about it and not feel like I have to see it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's true.
I think they went too hard on trying to make money off of Goosebumps when they did the whole Goosebumps series, and I didn't like that. Like, I watched the adaptations and I was like, but it's not as good. Like, when you're reading the book, it's better because every chapter ends with a cliffhanger. Like,
Yeah.
it's...
The scariest part for me was just seeing R.L. Stein in the episodes.
I didn't know. You know, my mom used to say, because my mom was like, well, you know, R.L. Stine is like a team of people. Like, there's no guy named R.L. Stine. Then I find out, like, because I went to New York Comic Con and he's there. And I'm like, that's the guy?
He's there. He's a real person.
He's a physical man that I could push over and go to jail for, but, like, still. But yeah, no, he's a real guy.
I love that.
Yep.
The idea that he's like this corporate conglomerate, just like
He's just a group of people
R.L.
who are
Stine is an
writing
acronym
stories.
that stands for a whole bunch of different companies. Like, they're all just like law firms.
All right, so this is yesterday in nerd history. We in November, it was the 55th anniversary of Sesame Street, which has been, I can't imagine a childhood without Sesame Street in it.
Right.
Yep.
Such an amazing show, amazing history and everything. The Sesame Street founder, Joan Gans Cooney and Lloyd Morissette, they were curious about could they make children's education work on television. And then they approached, this was like in 1966, I believe they started to produce it, and they asked Jim Henson if he could create a family of characters to populate Sesame Street. So, you know, from there, I mean, there's so much like history behind it, and the purpose of it really became to help kids who aren't as like
they don't have the same advantages as everybody. Like, it was
perfect.
Yeah.
Kids that don't have, I would say kids that don't have the privileges of, because honestly, the Board of Education wasn't put into place until like maybe 15 years ago or something. So like the school systems were drastically different based on where you lived.
Disadvantaged kids who, you know, just to get them started, to get them a little bit of a head start so that when they enter the school system, you know, they're a bit more prepared. And it was also a big part of just showing some representation, even though it was, you know, Muppets or, you know, they're different colors and everything like that. They were kind of built to represent people of color, just to help represent. It just wasn't white kids all the time.
Even the live action cast was a diverse cast, and I believe in the beginning of Sesame Street they actually were like, let's balance it out between like mostly the humans and then like some Muppets, and then like they were like, the kids tune out when the humans are there, put more puppets in there. And then they were like, the heavy lifting of diversification is going to have to really rely on the puppets.
I did a bunch of research that showed there used to be like a duo comedy act that was on, and every time the duo comedy act was on, the kids would just tune out, and they were like, so they had to cut it.
Like, let's put a mime up there.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk about that later. So
is that the Mr. Noodle? Is that what you're talking about?
That's Mr. Noodle. Yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Noodle himself is like a legend anyway. Well, let's just talk about Mr. Noodle now anyway.
All right, let's talk about Mr. Noodle. I love.
I don't even know what the hell this is.
I mean, it's so the actor. Sorry, not to cut you off.
Go ahead. Go ahead. You go first.
I don't know. Beyond like the actor, I don't really know much about Mr. Noodle. So
okay.
But Bill Irwin was Mr. Noodle, and he's like a world-renowned like vaudeville, like essentially like clown, not like fucking bozo, but you know like circus perform, like that sort of talent of clown.
Basically, like he was asked to come in and be a part of the Elmo's World segments. They basically realized that at a certain point kids tuned out, and so they wanted to make the regular Sesame Street be about 45 minutes, and then at the end give like 15 minutes to just Elmo, because the viewership was skewing very young, and that kids under 3 liked Elmo because he was also 3 years old. So he would talk to them and he would teach them about simple things like letters and numbers. So they, in the 30th season, they came up with this idea of Elmo's World, and they had Mr. Noodle as this character that just, he would open his window and Mr. Noodle lived outside, and he would say things to Mr. Noodle, and Mr. Noodle does not talk. So he is a mime. And so he does all this really big physical comedy, and it's really silly. But the idea was to get little kids to feel good about watching this because they feel smarter than the adults that's being portrayed. Okay. So he was the original Mr. Noodle for like the first season, and then he got really busy because he was filming How the Grinch Stole Christmas in 2000. So he asked his friend to come and basically take his place for a season. And so they're like, this is Mr. Noodle's brother, Mr. Noodle. And so they have the same name, but it's like one is MR and one is MISTER, I think. So,
Okay.
but then they did episodes together, and then they were like, let's bring in another Noodle, and so they brought in Kristen Chenoweth, and she was Mrs. Noodle, their sister. So now there's 3 Noodles, and there's a whole Noodle family. I call it the Noodle Network. There's so many of them.
That other Mr. Noodle is a famous actor as well.
Michael Jeter. He said
Michael Jeter, yeah.
Michael Jeter is a friend of Bill Irwin's, and when he asked, when Bill Irwin was like, hey, can you do, they also kind of look similar too, so he's like, can you do this? He gave an enthusiastic yes. He was like, yes, absolutely, I will be Mr. Noodle, and he said it was his favorite role that he'd played in the last 20 years, and he played it until he died 3 years later. He died in 2003, so for the last 3 years of his life, he was Mr. Noodle, sometimes by himself, sometimes with his brother, and sometimes with his sister, and sometimes all 3 of them.
Are they all idiots?
They're all kind of idiots, yes. But what's interesting is they all have different things.
I would love a smart noodle. It's a I know what it is.
No, Mr. and Mrs. Noodle are always kind of dumb. They're always a little bit dumb. Elmo's World ended after 10 seasons, and then they took a break, and then they came back to it because they're like, they want this. And instead of having it be 15 minutes, they just did 5 minutes. So some of the Noodle stuff was replayed, and then they had more additional Noodles. One was Daniel Corrin. He's a comedian. I don't really know him from any of the other stuff, but he was in 22 episodes. He's been in he's the most frequent of the new Noodles. Daveed Diggs, who's super famous now, I think. He's in Hamilton. He's a rapper. He sings, he raps. He also did he did a online thing for Sesame Street where he sang Rubber Ducky, and then he did a little Rubber Ducky rap for them. It's super fun. If you have kids, go look it up. It's so fun. Daveed Diggs also played Papa Noodle in a Father's Day episode. And then my favorite Noodles, Alana Glazer and Amber Ruffin.
Alana Glazer is a noodle?
Alana Glazer is a noodle, and she's in 16 episodes. In fact, there was a time where my son was watching Sesame Street, and I knew that Mr. Noodle was a thing, and then suddenly I heard Elmo saying Mrs. Noodle, because she's Miss Noodle, MISS, and then there's also Ms. Noodle, MS. Miss Noodle! What are you doing? And I was like, Miss Noodle? Who's Miss Noodle? And I look over, and it's Alana Glazer, and I'm like, the fuck is she doing on Sesame Street as a Miss Noodle? But also amazing, and she's in a lot of episodes. She's in 16 episodes. She does a lot of Noodle stuff.
When it comes to Sesame Street and it being on repeats and stuff, I'm not 55, so I did not catch Sesame Street when it first aired. Yeah. But
of course not.
I watched it a lot because my parents were also they were the child is going to be in front of the television, and that'll take care of
the child will be there, and they will be quiet.
The television will take care of it. Reagan's got it covered, and so we were. I'm watching a lot of Sesame Street and PBS, and it's why I was really good at Spanish for a couple of years. When Spanish was introduced, I'm like, I got all my numbers and letters all covered. And my Spanish teacher's like, this is amazing. This kid's a prodigy. And I'm like, no, I just paid attention during Sesame Street. But because of the repeats, I am an honorary Gen Xer because of all the 70s influences, everything that is about this, everything that people love and that is iconic about Sesame Street.
All of the guest stars and recognize
are from the 70s, and from the grit of the screen to the weird animation to the tinny music. I'm I'm there. I'm with you. So, I can step right in with anyone who is in their 50s and 60s now, where I'm I gotcha. Yeah, I'm hip. I'm with it.
So I got some fun facts here. Julia was nice enough to gather up some fun facts. The first one that I'm going to share that you guys already know, but everyone needs to see this, is...
Brace yourselves.
Here's what Snuffleupagus, who started out as Big Bird's imaginary friend and then was eventually revealed to everyone else. This was his first design.
Oh. Can't you just don't you know he doesn't look straight?
So is this is this what I have questions about this. Is this what Big Bird is imagining but no one else can see, but we can see what he sees? So we know that this is a terror living in Big Bird's brain?
Yeah. Right.
And then when he comes out of it, he is more normal.
No, from my memory, it was Snuffleupagus always looked like the sort of standard version, not this crazy wall-eyed version. I think this guy looks like he was just like hastily
This
thrown
looks
together
like,
by
this
like
looks
a
like
bunch
they're
of
like, this is prototype 1.
This was totally
Yeah,
the
right.
like the presentation. They're like Snuffy, and everyone's like,
They're
I
like,
have
we
questions.
love it.
yeah,
Print.
but I
Go to
having
print.
said that, I have some thoughts.
yeah.
Does he have to look in 2 different directions?
Do his eyes have to be neon yellow green? Like, it's hard to tell with like the color saturation is probably off a little bit on the picture, but considering how Big Bird looks like he's correct.
He's yellow.
He's yellow. So
But those
these eyes are yellow and green.
Snuffleupagus is on like dialysis.
Right. Like, does
He
Snuffy
is-
need a furrowed brow? Does he need to look sinister?
He is two less limes away from jaundice.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also it's concerning too, just about Big Bird. Like this is what you imagined up.
This is your whole thing.
This
huh?
is what you want your friend to look like?
Big Bird is also like, what, 2 or something?
Yeah.
Is Big Bird too?
That's the thing, is Big Bird used to be a little kid.
I don't remember Big Bird from Sesame Street. I remember Big Bird only from the movie where he gets put in a cage, and like
Follow
that's
that
the
bird.
only part that I remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
that movie at all.
I watched that a lot. And Big Bird always talked like an adult to me, in my opinion. Like he talked like he was the most adult like puppet in the room.
Another odd fact here that Julia uncovered was that what Cookie Monster's real name is Sid. His name is just Sid. It just seems so strange. So we did a little bit, just following up on it a little bit. It was like in 2004, he just said it before he started like just mashing cookies into his unopened mouth. But like he later like kind of like walked it back a little bit in like a tweet, I think. Like more recently, he was like, I still prefer like in his Cookie Monster like
Yes.
tone. That he's like, you don't have to call me Sid. You can call me Cookie Monster if you want.
Me still prefer Cookie Monster as me name.
Yeah, like don't start
Don't
fights
call
over
me.
this.
Don't start calling me Sid. I'm not gonna answer. Sid is the name I was given at birth. I no longer
Yeah.
answer to Sid.
Yeah.
It's
Don't dead
Sid
name-
is his
don't
dead
dead
name.
name me.
Yeah, Sid is his dead name, and that's fine.
It's such like a dumb, great thing is his British cousin is Biscuit Monster. There's one more little factoid that I wanted to share here.
Yay.
Was that, just going back to Elmo for a second, that he was the only non-human to testify before Congress, and he lobbied, what it says here, he lobbied for the Sackler family, for the the family that's responsible for the opioid crisis.
Oh,
You guys
cool.
familiar with that? I'm kidding. No.
I did what? No, that is not what he did.
No, he lobbied
No,
for
he
music
didn't.
education.
Sal, don't believe Mike. He's full of
Like,
lies.
yeah, no, definitely.
No.
I'm out thinking.
He
Oh my
lobbied
God, that
for
was-
music education.
God damn it. That was a fantastic Elmo.
I'm writing it on the
Sal.
list.
I
Elmo.
know.
No.
Yep.
I hate
No,
Elmo.
it was for music education, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of Sesame Street and Muppets, there's a trend going around that's super fun. It's just an easy thing to do. So a little exercise for all of us is where you take a movie, you keep one human character and replace the rest with Muppets.
I pitched Forrest Gump, where Tom Hanks stays his wonderful, gorgeous self, and every other character is a Muppet.
That's such a great choice. My
Janice
God.
being Jenny is just perfect. Okay, so like, I have AIDS.
Oh my God. Oh. That's so great. There's so many different characters in that. Holy shit.
Lieutenant Dan is just Sam the Eagle.
That's fucking fantastic.
Bunsen Honeydew would be Bubba, I think. I don't know. I could be wrong there.
Oh man, that's tough.
I don't know who would be Mama though. Like who would be? I mean, Miss Piggy could be Mama, but I feel like she's a little
Yeah.
bit too over the top.
Sal, what's your choice?
Oh, Schindler's List. Keep Liam Neeson, but everybody. No. Rizzo the Rat is the little girl in the dress. No, I was thinking that I would like to see The Godfather being remade, but with Muppets, where it's
That's
just
great.
it's just Brando, and because he would say yes to that if he was still alive, obviously. That'd be fun. I mean, that's just like because obviously there's some I would actually pay to see. Godfather's more like, yeah, just do that.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, go do that. But like, there's other things where I'm like, well, we don't like. That's one of those things where like we don't have time. Like, I'm not going to get into it, so I just pitch Godfather. It's like I don't have time to cast the Star Wars Muppet Moon, but like, let's just stick with that.
My first like knee-jerk reaction choice was Eyes Wide Shut.
Now, which one, Nicole Kidman or Tom Cruise, is going to be the human?
I know.
Neither. Just the
one of
masks
random,
say
like,
the
masked
same.
orgy people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's Kermit and Miss Piggy are Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman.
Holy shit, that'd be so funny. Oh, that's
If you men only knew.
that is fucking great.
If you
just
only
a little
knew what we really wanted,
twist
Kermit.
That is fantastic. The other one that I had, it would be, you're switching around the movie a little bit, but I thought it'd be fun, is if it's Lord of the Rings, but it's only Sauron, and then everybody. So it's like from his point of view, and all the orcs and whoever else are around him are the Muppets. But it's a different movie, so it's a little bit. But I love Eyes Wide Shut with Kermit and Piggy as Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, and then everyone else
poster
are humans.
alone is
Oh my god, that's so fucking great. It's endless. I mean, you could really pick like any movie, and it's going to be fucking funny with this. It's great. That is. So
no, it's so true. Yeah, but Lord of the Rings is a good one. I would love to see that. I don't care who the human is. I'm thinking Aragorn though. Like,
yeah.
But Gandalf maybe. I don't know. It's fun. Anybody, man. It's so good.
Who's your favorite Muppet?
Sesame Street, it's Oscar the Grouch. I love Oscar the Grouch. As a kid, I had like my parents clearly keyed into it, like because I had a lot of Oscar the Grouch merch because they were like, he's really lighting up on that on the dumpster diver. We should got to get him more. He really likes the trash monster.
Yeah, that's fucking great.
I love the song.
We'll make it Sesame Street. Who's your favorite Sesame Street? So Oscar,
Sesame Street, it's Oscar the Grouch.
Sesame
And by the
That's
way,
fantastic.
in my like town, there was for like a couple of years there was this like. There's no excuse for why this business existed, but it was like this like magazine shop, and the dude was a die-in-the-wool Sesame Street fan, and BS'd his way into getting Carol Spinney to come to the shop and do like a meet and greet. Wow. And so I'm like, no one's coming to this thing. I get my wife, I'm like, we are going to this very sad affair. And we go, and it's like she and I and 2 or 3 other people. And so Carol Spinney's there just like, I was paid my usual rate, but like.
He just really wanted it to happen.
Yeah, so that guy was like, I want to meet Carol Spinney. And I have an excuse to get him to come out.
Well, if
so I
he
got to
has
meet
a
him
shop,
and be like,
he can do a write-off, I assume.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I got to meet him and be like, hey, listen, like Big Bird, but like Oscar the Grouch, man, thank you. And he told me like, Oscar the Grouch was originally, the voice came from a cabbie that drove him to like the audition in New York. It was like, hey, Mac, come on. Like, he was just like, oh, my God, this guy is hilarious.
This guy is
like,
amazing.
He just stole his voice and then brought it to the audition. Like, just it was like, wow. It was like, oh, God, I'm working on some characters. Because the idea of, like, all the Muppet creators, like, the people who play the Muppets, at least for a while, Kermit's not included, are essentially, like, tethered to the creators, the performers, and the performers get to, like, own kind of, like, who they are and infuse their character and personality. So, like, Spinney knew, like, I gotta own this Oscar the Grouch character because, like, I'm gonna be Oscar the Grouch, like, until I die.
I gotta say, Oscar is my second favorite because I just love how he just doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks. He's so grouchy in his grouchiness. He literally will have like little worms hang out with him, and they're like, "Hey, we like your trash," and he's like, "Shut up, get the fuck off my trash," but like without the swearing. He is my second favorite, but my first favorite from when I was a kid was Snuffleupagus, not the nightmare version that we saw, but the very sweet one who's like kind and looks like what I imagine what a
woolly mammoth.
Yeah, I mean, he basically is a woolly mammoth, right? Yeah. Like, I loved the idea of woolly mammoths, and I, like, cried over the fact that they didn't exist anymore. And I thought that Snuffleupagus was basically like a woolly mammoth. I liked that he had, like, long eyelashes.
Eyelashes, yeah.
That, like, when he blinked, they, like, fluttered. Yeah, there's something so nice about that, being a kid. Like, he was a very calming presence to me.
Yeah, that's a great point about just the eyelashes and the blink. Because there's something very like smooth
so cool
about it. It wasn't like an animatronic where it's like,
yeah.
It's like,
no, they were very gentle because it was a human moving them.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I really like Snuffleupagus, the nice one, not the terror version.
Yeah, he was so soft spoken too. He's like, okay. He was also the guy who was like, hey, Big Bird, why don't you slow your roll a little bit? Big Bird gets very
He's
excitable.
the big brother.
But, maybe calm down a little bit.
What about you, Mike?
Mine was probably Bert and Ernie, just as like they're
pair.
like
They're dynamic.
and yeah, they're dynamic together. Was even just as like a little kid, it's like they're just like this couple that are just like the way they just interact with each other and just how they play off of one another.
Have you seen the bloopers?
Yeah, I know. I love those, yes.
You know, like one of them flubbed their line, and he's like, "Hey, Bert, what you said didn't follow what I said, huh, Bert?" and then like they try to get the scene going, and then he brought it up again. He's like, "No, that's nice." Really, really good stuff. Such dedication.
Yeah,
but those two, like, yes, their dynamic is so freaking iconic and fun.
It always just seemed like it was not, those two weren't like, their dynamic wasn't meant for kids, but it was just on a kid's show. It just felt like it felt like the Odd Couple level of like adults watching it would laugh at it kind of thing.
It was for them. Like they thought it was funny, and we were just like there for the ride.
What about Muppets?
My favorite Muppet it's generic, but I love Kermit's always my favorite.
Oh,
So great.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that makes sense. Kermit was your icon for a very long time. I think it's still your icon in my phone.
Yeah, and I had like a Kermit hand puppet like as a kid with like little Velcro things on his palm, so you could do like you can like have him like stick to himself, but you could do like the crazy arm flail, and you can do like when he's like pulls his mouth in and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's so
But
fun.
he was always my favorite because he was like
Just
didn't seem like trying to hold it together, would lose it a lot, like not getting a whole ton of respect from anybody. Just so great. It's such like a weird freaking character. Just love him.
Yeah. His managerial style really appealed to you. It's being like, all right, well, you know, this is kind of the life I've chosen.
I do want to say my favorite Muppet is Beaker, although he should be named Graduated Cylinder. So that is my only gripe, because he is not shaped like a beaker. I'm a science nerd, and he is shaped like a graduated cylinder, and I'm very mad at Jim Henson for that. But I'll allow it because
Tarnishes
all
the
his
whole
mouth
thing,
does is just flap open, and the only noise he makes is it's just, I can't even. I did it wrong.
Yeah.
But
As a kid, I loved Statler and Waldorf. Like, I loved how sarcastic they were, but every time Sam the Eagle comes on screen, I am delighted. Like, he is so funny and so, like, he just doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And it's like, you are there, man. Like, you're
you're there. You're part of it.
you're part
You
of
don't
it,
wanna
whether
be
you
part
want
of
to be
it,
separate
but you're
or not.
part of it.
Yeah.
One of the best things is, and I know it'll be demolished by the time this episode comes out, is Muppet Vision 3D at Disney World, which, if you've never seen it, watch the YouTube video. If you never, don't pay like $6,000 to go to Disney World, but just, it's on YouTube. But there's this like 1988 or whatever, like filmed production of the Muppets with all the original voices and everybody. And they're all just trying to put on a show with your 3D glasses, which are phenomenal, by the way. And so this whole experience. And in it, Sam the Eagle is going to put on his like tribute to America. And we're towards the end of the show. And the interaction between him and Kermit is, Kermit's like, "Hey, Sam, you got your thing going? You got your performance? It is a glorious 3-hour finale." And he goes, "You got a minute and a half." And Sam goes, "Ooh," and then just disappears. And he comes back and just speed runs his thing, and it's so funny and so great. But his like, "Ooh," like it's like a Frasier sketch.
Oh my god.
But I love it. It's 3 hours. You got a minute and a half.
got a
Like
minute.
that's the Muppet. You got a minute and a half. Ooh.
That speaks to me on so many levels.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
my wife and I, when we first saw that, like we're in the theater with like children and, homeless people. And we're just like watching this, and that sequence comes up. We're laughing like, we're at like a we're like at a comedy show. And people are like, "What is wrong with those people? Don't look at them."
That is fucking great. I love it.
So good.
Oh my god.
I really embarrassed myself, like surrounded, like immersed in that world. Like if I could go to like the Henson Creature Shop or whatever, it's just like, no, I'd just start crying, and then they have to leave, like they have to remove me. And, at the end of that
if you got to
sequence,
touch Sam Eagle, do you think you would cry immediately?
probably. I mean, like it would, if I touched Kermit, I would cry.
Oh
if
my
Sam
God.
the Eagle, I'd be like, like I would stop laughing. I would put him on. I'd be like, "Why am I here?" But like,
All right, so that does it for this week. Thanks to everybody who tunes in. If you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, give us a like, leave a comment. Really helps us out. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like. Leave a comment. Who's your favorite Muppet? Maybe let us know that. Or who's your favorite Sesame Street character, since we're talking about that. And AJ, what were you going to plug?
I wanted to plug, there's a Kickstarter that I recently backed, and I think that it's really fun, so I want to plug it here because somebody who used to work with us here at Lowbrow, Amanda, I'm probably going to bouch her last name, Maiden? I've never said her last name. Maitan? I don't know how to say
Yeah.
Amanda.
We're both pronouncing it wrong, probably. Sorry, Amanda.
She's doing some promo stuff for this project called Horizonauts. So they have a Kickstarter. We can link to it. As of us recording this, they're about 40% funded right now. It's animation. It's sci-fi. It's a bunch of like bad guys that have to like group together to like try to get money and I don't know, whatever else. It's family friendly, so I'm excited about like backing something that I can actually watch with my kids. I like the choices that they made for Kickstarter because I've done a lot of research on Kickstarter and 80% of their funds are just going straight to the production, which is like where it should be, not on a bunch of shit that you don't need. So if you back them, you can get like digital downloads instead of just like a bunch of shit showing up at your door, which I think is like just killing the planet.
We'll put the link in the description and we can put it up on screen as well.
Their goal is just $30,000 to make their pilot episode, and they're about they're like I said, they're 40% of the way there, so they're over 10,000.
I will definitely be checking it out. Sal, anything you want to plug?
If you are interested in comics, I wrote the backup to the current running Terminator series. So the final order cutoff has passed, but if you go to your local comic book store, if you pick up the first 5 issues of Terminator, you'll get all 10 pages of my backup, which are spread out across those issues. We're up to issue 2. Issue 3 is coming out soon, so check that out as well. But, make sure to just tell your local comic book store, give me all 5 issues, and then you'll be covered.
All right, we like you guys, and we hope you like us.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving!
I actually totally fucking forgot, but
this was supposed to be our Thanksgiving episode.
Animal used to stress me out so much, man.
Really?
Really? I loved it. Animal was like, that's what I was like.
When he's like building up and stuff, I'm like, he's just gonna start fucking stuff up, and then he does, and I'm like, God damn it, Animal!
Don't get him started.
Got him all riled up.